I now hand the conference over to Mr. R. Ravi, Vice President, Head of Investor Relations. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Lizanne. Ladies and gentlemen, I, R. Ravi, Head of Investor Relations at AGS, wishing all a very good evening and a warm welcome to the third quarter of FY21 results conference call. To discuss the third quarter results and the 9 months FY21, I am joined by Mr. Patanjali Sarkar, Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Srinivasa Palakoddeti, the Global CFO. Before we begin the conference call, I would like to mention that some of the statements made during the course of today's conference call may be forward-looking in nature, including those related to the future financial and operating performances, benefits, and synergies of the company's strategies, future opportunities, and the growth of the market of the company's services and solutions. Further, I would like to mention that some of the statements made in today's conference call may be forward-looking in nature and may involve risks and uncertainties. Before I hand over the call to Mr. Patanjali Sarkar, I would like to mention that if there is a call drop during the course of the conference call, please bear with the management. Because of COVID-19, all of us are taking our call in different mobile from different locations, hence call drops are proving to be a recurring problem. Now I would like to invite Mr. Patanjali Sarkar to provide his perspective on the performance of the third quarter and also for the 9 months. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ravi. Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for joining us on the call today to discuss our quarter and 9 months of FY 2021 financial and business performance. Hope you had an opportunity to review our earnings press release and the attended fact sheets of the reported financials, which are available under the Investors section on our website, www.teamags.com, as well as on the BSE and NSE websites. As always, I would like to begin the call with a brief overview of the financials for the quarter under review, followed by the strategic initiatives and operational performance. After that, I will hand over the call to our CFO, Mr. Srinivasa Palakoddeti, to discuss the financial performance of the quarter under review and of the 9 months of the financial year in greater detail. We will then open up the conference call for Q&A session. Before I dwell into discussing the operating performance of the quarter under review, I would like to bring to your attention that AGS UK Limited, a subsidiary of AGS, which held 85.66% of the equity stake in AGS Digital LLC, US, formerly known as Element Solutions, as on 30th September 2020, has acquired the balance 14.34% in 2 tranches between November 2020 and January 2021. Thus, AGS Digital LLC is now fully owned by AGS. The revenues of AGS Digital stood at $9.4 million in CY 2017 prior to the acquisition. This is now nearly doubled to $18.4 million in FY 2020. For the 9 months of FY 2021, the revenues from AGS Digital were at $15.6 million. Our investment in AGS Digital LLC reflects the ever-growing importance of digital capabilities for our clients as well as for our in-house needs. I am delighted with our operating and financial performance for Quarter 3 FY 2021 and 9 months FY 2021. Our quarterly revenues of rupees 14,568 million, that is $197 million, are within striking distance of $200 million per quarter. This quarter, our EBITDA has crossed the rupees 2,000 million mark. On a like-to-like basis, Quarter 3 FY 2021 revenues have grown over Quarter 3 FY 2020 by 15.2%, comprising FX impact of 3.1% and a very strong volume growth of 12.1%. We have seen strong volume growth in our healthcare businesses as well as our CES business in UK and Canada. We had some key new wins for the UK business, leading to a revenue growth of about 47% over Q3 FY 2020. This steep growth has resulted in substantial costs such as training in Quarter 3 FY 2021, but the benefits of those training costs would accrue in subsequent quarters. Our margins have also kept pace. The EBITDA margin for Quarter 3 has expanded by 20 basis points over Quarter 2. and 240 basis points over Q1 FY 2021. We exited Q4 2020 with an EBITDA margin of 13.8%, and now at the end of Q3 FY 2021, we are at 14.2%. This margin expansion has been achieved with higher operating efficiency. All our continuous cost rationalization and optimization efforts, like divestment of unprofitable contracts and the divestment of low-margin businesses, are having positive impact on these EBITDA margins. On a YTD December basis, the EBITDA margin for the 9-month FY 2021 has expanded to 13.4%. The strong operational performance has percolated to the bottom line as well. For the first 9 months of FY 2021, our net profits are up by 35% over 9 months of FY 2020. I also want to add that the profit after tax for the first 3 quarters of FY 2021 of rupees 2,056 million has already equaled the full year profit after tax of FY 2020. I've assured many of you in the previous conference calls and in the investor conferences, the focus of management is to grow profitably and increase capital efficiency. I'm glad to share that we are on our course. Though the impact of COVID-19 may be showing the first signs of waning in some countries, we are yet to come out of the pandemic-led disruptions in the global economic activity. The recent sharp spikes of COVID cases in many countries in Europe and in the US continue to remain a concern. Nevertheless, HGS had a better than expected performance in Q3 and the 9-month period in terms of revenues, profitability, and cash flows, despite the financial year being marred by this pandemic. The strong growth in Q3 has been driven by revenues from our healthcare vertical as well as strong revenue growth achieved from our UK business. I'm glad to share our UK business has delivered strong performance. We have won several deals originating from the public sector verticals, and the sales pipeline is strong and promising. I'm really happy with the way we have swiftly realigned and restored our operating model to the new normal, and the financial results have shown Team HGS's resilience and agility in adversity. The pipeline of orders from the healthcare as well as consumer products clients are looking very promising to sustain the current growth momentum. In order to adjust to the new normal, we managed to map majority of the workflow processes from the beginning of the current fiscal year. Everything from hiring and training to engaging with clients and associates and delivering high quality services to how to sell and transition remotely has been redesigned for a sustained and permanent distributed operating model. The growth in Q3 revenues can be attributed to the following reason. All our top clients aided the Q3 revenue growth. Healthcare vertical continues to report good growth rates. In Philippines peso terms, the Philippines have aided the growth in a big way, and the COVID-19 support services in UK are also helping it increasing its contribution. On top of that, we have also been awarded a new contract to provide support to the US government for Brexit, and that is also one of the major contributors of revenue for UK. The global demand environment for BPM services has greatly improved since the beginning of the pandemic. From our regular interactions with our clients across geographies, we are reasonably confident that this trend will continue for the foreseeable future. Our investments in sales and business development efforts are paying off. We've been able to garner significant incremental orders from new and existing clients. A key driver for growth has been the number of new logo signings this year and the strong pipeline conversion. Overall, in Q3 FY 2021, we added 14 new logos for core BPM services and 5 for HRO payroll services in Q3. We signed 45 new opportunities for expansion of businesses with existing clients in the quarter. We signed engagement with 17 clients, new and existing, for HGS digital services, for robotic process automation, digital analytics, and social care services. From these data points that I've shared, our sales pipeline, therefore, will continue to be healthy, led by our domain expertise and execution capability. We are in the middle of our open enrollment season. That is going well. We are also looking to sign up many digital-led transformation projects in the coming quarters. Operationally, we are operating at about 95% plus service level across our geographies and continue to support majority of our clients to work from home model. This work from home model has also enabled us to quickly ramp up our capacity in the UK to support the new project wins that we've had for COVID-19 support and Brexit support. However, a few thousand employees across India, Philippines, Jamaica, and the UK are delivering essential services from few office locations in a safe and socially distanced environment. I want to reiterate that AGS's exposure to the verticals like hotel, airlines, car rentals, timeshare, etc. are very limited. Our core verticals like healthcare and insurance, telecom and technology, consumer and public sector are doing better than expected. Many of our recent BPM deals in the BPM space do come with automation, analytics, and high-end insights as an embedded component. It is a trend that we are seeing as the clients look for partners who can enable them to win in an ever-changing market. Clients want AGS to combine new technologies with domain expertise to deliver enhanced customer experience. To sum it up, the overall state of our core business continues to be very strong and has been further strengthened with the divestment of the India domestic CRM business last year. On a like-to-like basis, we have been able to report strong revenue growth for the past few quarters. We will continue to review our business portfolio and take appropriate actions to improve the overall profitability of the business. Looking ahead, the uncertainties relating to COVID-19 are likely to persist till the first half of the calendar year for sure, and we believe that the work from home model will continue into the foreseeable future. It gives us tremendous flexibility for short-term projects, and we are leveraging that in the UK. We are making investments in increasing our work from home and digital capabilities, but some of the wins may be of short duration projects, types in nature. We do expect several of them to convert into long-term contracts as well. The demand for our services from the healthcare vertical remains strong, and we see demand to continue into the first half of the next fiscal year. With that, I will now hand over the call to Pala to walk us through the numbers of quarter 3 FY 2021 and 9 months FY 2021 in greater details. Thank you once again for being with us on the call today.
Thank you, Partha. A very good afternoon to all the participants on the call, and thank you once again for joining us for our Q3 FY21 earnings discussion. As in the past, we would like to start by stating that for this discussion, the EBITDA and EBITDA margins have been computed after excluding forex losses and gains, which have been considered part of the other income. As required by auditing standards, we have published our financial results comprising continuing operations and discontinued operations. The discontinued operations refer to the India domestic CRM business, which we exited in January 2020. For the purpose of this discussion, however, revenues, profits, and margins will be mentioned for the company as a whole, i.e. aggregating continuing and discontinuing operations. Standalone financials. I will start with an overview of the standalone financials. The standalone operations comprise the operations in India and the branch of AGS in Philippines. On a like-to-like basis, standalone financials show total revenues of 6,285 million and a revenue growth of 11.2% over Q3 FY20. It may be noted that Q3 FY20 included 709 million rupees of revenues of the India domestic CRM business, which we exited in January 2020. Hence, the reported revenues have dropped by 1.1%. On a sequential basis, revenues have grown 6.6%. The standalone EBITDA margins for Q3 FY21 were at 25.8%, up by 320 basis points over Q2 FY21 EBITDA margin of 22.6%. On a year-on-year basis, EBITDA margins have improved by 300 basis points from 22.8% in Q3 FY20 to 25.8% in Q3 FY21. Under other income in Q3 FY21, there was an FX loss due to appreciation of the rupee and the peso of rupees 94.5 million. This was offset by interest income on treasury surplus of rupees 86.6 million and other items of 16.7 million rupees, resulting in overall other income of rupees 9 billion for Q3 FY21. PAT for Q3 FY21 was 725 million rupees, an increase of 86% on a sequential basis. Compared to Q3 FY20, PAT is marginally down by 1.2% as compared to PAT of 734 million of Q3 FY20, and this is primarily due to drop in other income by about 200 million rupees. Now I will turn to discuss the consolidated financials for Q3 FY21. On a consolidated basis for Q3 FY21, GS reported total revenues of 14,568 million, and on a like-to-like basis, the year-on-year revenue growth was 15.2%, comprising 3.1% due to exchange rate variation and a very strong 12.1% volume growth. You may recall that in Q3 FY20 had revenues of 709 million of the India domestic CRM business, which we have exited in January 2020. Hence, the reported revenue growth in Q3 FY21 is 9.1% over Q3 FY20. EBITDA margins for Q3 FY21 were at 14.2%, an increase of 20 basis points over Q2 FY21, but lower than 15.5% reported in Q3 FY20. It may be noted that we have incurred significant ramp costs relating to the open enrollment season for our healthcare business and for the public sector contracts won in UK. The benefits from the ramps are expected to accrue in the subsequent quarters. In the consolidated financials under other income in Q3 FY21, there was FX loss of 17.86 million rupees. This was offset by treasury income as well as other items, resulting in overall other income of 81.5 million rupees for Q3 FY21. Please note that the other income of 81.5 million in Q3 FY21 is significantly lower than other income of 198 million rupees in Q3 FY20. Coming to PBT and PAT. PBT for Q3 FY21 was 1,105 million rupees, an increase of 22.1% on sequential basis and 6.6% over Q3 FY20. You may recall that Q2 FY21 had certain one-off items in the deferred tax line, which gave a boost to Q2 FY21 PAT. These one-off items are not there for Q3 FY21. As a result, PAT for Q3 FY21, which came in at 752 million rupees, shows an increase of 5.6% over Q3 FY20 of 712 million rupees and drop on a sequential basis of 7.5%. For Q3 FY21, the board has approved interim dividend of 6 rupees per share, which from a payout perspective, that comes to 16.7% of the consolidated Q3 FY21 profits. Coming to YTD financials, on YTD December 2020, on a like-to-like basis, HGS has recorded revenue growth of 10.5% over YTD December 2019 due to the revenues from the India domestic business and some pass-through revenues which ended in July 2029 but were part of YTD FY December 2019 numbers. The revenue growth on a reported basis is 2.8%. EBITDA growth on a reported basis is up by 13.5%. Depreciation, interest costs and other income were broadly in line with YTD December 2019. While PBT is up 28% over YTD December 19, PAT is higher due to lower taxes on account of changes in deferred and current taxes. Total dividends for YTD December 2020 comes to 80 rupees per share. From a payout perspective, it works out to around 18% of consolidated YTD December 2020 PAT. We are pleased to share that in the first 3 quarters of FY21, PAT of 2,057 million rupees is at par with the full year FY20 profit after tax. Coming to forward covers for Q4 FY21, we have forward covers of 27 million at an average rate of 74.9, higher than the current spot of around 73 rupees. We also have forward covers for about 23.9 million in Philippines for the US dollar PHP, and these forward covers are at rate of 51.7, significantly higher than the current spot of USD to the Filipino peso of 48.08. During Q3 FY21, HGS incurred capital expenditure of 510 million rupees, and YTD December 2020, the capex comes to 1,167 million rupees. This capex is higher than the YTD December 2009 capex of 799.5 million rupees, and this increase is primarily due to work from home specific capex incurred in the earlier part of the financial year towards headsets and other IT communication equipment required to get work from home going. During the quarter ended 31st December 2020, gross debt reduced from 5,454 million to 4,944 million, a reduction of 510 million rupees over the previous quarter. Debt of 4,944 million comprises 3,568 million of debt in overseas subsidiaries and 1,376 million rupees of debt on the India balance sheet. The India debt comprises 1,186 million of external commercial borrowing and 190 million of working capital demand loan, which was due on end Jan 2021 and which has since been repaid. Cash and cash equivalents dropped from 6,078 million as of 30th September 2020, and I have seen a drop of 667 million from the levels of 30th September. As on 31st December 2020, HGS has net cash position of 467 million rupees. Taking into account 4,619 million of treasury surplus deployed in the form of loans, the net cash position as of 31st December 2020 is 5,087 million. During the quarter ended 31st December 2020, there was a reduction in the loans given by 303 million, and the total outstanding loans given by the company stand at 4,619 million. Collections are as per target, and DSO days stand at 77 days for the first 9 months as compared to 71 days at the end of Q2 FY21. EBITDA to free cash flow conversion continues to be strong and stands at 44% for the first 3 quarters of the financial year. As on 31st December 2020, OPEX seats stand at 38% of total seats as compared to 39% as on 30th September 2020. Revenues for the healthcare vertical grew 10.4% on year-on-year basis and accounted for 55% of total revenues. With strong growth of our UK business, our share of our UK business has increased from 5.4% in Q3 FY20 to 7.6% in Q3 FY21. With the divestment of the India domestic CRM business, the India originated revenue comprises HRO payroll and some interactive services business and accounts for 4.3% of total revenues as compared to 10% in previous years. The drop in revenues from telecom and banking and financial service verticals primarily due to sale of the India domestic CRM business. Our efforts to increase productivity continue, and at the end of Q3 FY21, our average monthly revenue per employee stood at 1,20,369, up from 99,328 rupees in Q3 of FY2020, an increase of 21.2%, highlighting the change in the mix of the business as well as the exit of the India domestic CRM business. Sequentially, revenue per employee grew by about 4%. I now conclude my section and now would open the floor for the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin with the question and answer session. Anyone wishing to ask a question may please press star and one on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Siddharth Oberoi from Prudent Equity. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So this is regarding the EBIT margin reduction from last year. Last year, the EBIT margins were about 16.7%, now 14.7%. So, what is brought this change?
So, thanks, Siddharth. This is Bala here. As I mentioned, in Q3 of FY21, we have seen significant growth. We have incurred significant ramp costs for our open enrollment season for the healthcare sector and for the UK business. So the costs have been incurred in the quarter. The benefits through revenue and would come through in subsequent quarters. So there is a bit of timing difference, given a lot of this growth or ramp costs have been incurred in overseas locations.
So what are these mainly into? Is it into employee costs?
They are primarily in the form of employee costs.
All right. Okay. Also, your tax rate for this quarter is again 45%. I mean, if you exclude the one-time tax related to prior years. So what is the tax rate going forward? Is it going to be 30-35% ballpark?
Yeah, if you remove there's also, of course, the component of deferred tax, but if you see on a consolidated basis, the current tax is in the range of about 33%. So we expect it to be in that range.
Okay, but is it that there are some geographies that you're working on which are higher tax than India, and therefore the mix is on the higher side, because India is like 26% after surcharge?
Correct, but they vary from geography to geography. So, but they would be in that range. Average would come to somewhere in the 30-31% range.
All right. Also, so you have this, so the revenue run rate is very strong. So it's averaging about 8%, 8-9% per quarter. So do we expect, the same run rate or more in quarterly growth?
So as I mentioned, we have a pretty strong pipeline, and demand continues to be strong. But if you want to add anything more on specific in terms of revenue growth.
Some of the wins in quarter 3 and quarter 4 are going to translate into full year revenues next year. So that's going to drive some amount of the growth that we can see next year. Yeah.
So on an annualized basis, somewhere about 15-20%, can we expect that much for FY22? Given the large orders that have been tagged.
Don't give revenue guidance, unfortunately, for that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Also, with margin profile, so you said that, there was a one-off because of this ramping up. So do we expect that in the subsequent quarters, the EBIT margins will probably inch higher from 14.5 to somewhere about 15, 16 range?
I think we can't give specific guidance, but typically we have seasonality in our business, and in general, second half of the year is better than the first half of the year. Having said that, as I mentioned earlier, we've seen significant growth in offshore locations, so which has had then the cost of the ramps has impacted Q3.
All right. Also, you have mentioned in certain notifications that large orders have impact Q3 and Q2. How large are these? Are they, can you give any amount in maybe like a $50 million, $100 million accounts? How big are these accounts?
Yeah, these would, it would vary from contract to contract, but they would have potential to generate $5 to, let's say, $8 to $10 million additional.
So
this is just in the UK market, per annum. Each of these contracts would generate $8 to $10 million in the UK market.
Okay.
No, and because some of them are still, pipeline, so they have potential to, it's a bit of a moving target, but some of them could scale up even higher.
Okay. And what about the restructuring of the business? There has been no further progress on this.
So that is work in progress. We are basically restructuring all our healthcare subsidiaries into one unit. If you've seen our corporate structure, it's there in our annual report. It's a fairly complex structure driven by a lot of acquisition covenants that are put in by the banks who finance those acquisitions. So we are simplifying the healthcare holding structures to bring them under one operating unit. That makes it administratively convenient for us. It also helps us in our taxes. Some of those units are marginally loss-making, whereas others are profitable. So we can club the incomes to get to a lower operating tax level.
Okay, so it is not that you would probably be hiving off the healthcare and listing it separately or something like that.
No. We don't comment on those kind of speculations.
Okay. So basically the objective is, probably tax rationalization or something of that sort.
I told you, have a look at our annual report, you'll understand what I'm saying. Our healthcare operations are different operating units. Many of them are acquired entities. They are held under different subsidiaries. And that was done at that point of time because we had some financial covenants from the banks that provided acquisition financing. That made it administratively quite inconvenient. And that's what we are trying to simplify.
Okay. So also, regarding the loan to the promoters, so it's actually in your last notification was 330 crores. It's gone to 461 now. How much of
you're looking at? No, I think the numbers you are referring to are incorrect. We stand at 4619 million as of December, and they were higher by about 303 million or 30 crores as of 30th September. So there's been a reduction between September and December.
Okay. So are you saying, it's not 461 crores?
Yeah, total is 461. It was about 491 crores. Please see the notes on the publishing page. You'll see it on the consolidated one. You'll see these numbers.
Okay, so 491 has come down to 461.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, but what about this 461? Because if it gets rolled over, then it's almost short term, I think.
So, as you've seen our publishing page, these are scheduled to be repaid before 31st March.
Okay. But we are already in, Fed. So have the promoters given any indication that they'll be returning this by 31st March? I'm sure you must have had a word with them.
Yeah. Our arrangement is that they'll all be repaid before 31st March.
All right. Okay. All right. Also, one thing, so this dividend has been last year 15 rupees. This time it is 6 rupees in Feb. So why the change?
You need to look at it in entirety. The first two interim dividends of the previous financial year was 2.5 rupees, 2.5 rupees. Which brings up a total of 20 for the full financial year because there's no final dividend. Against full final year dividend of 20, FY20 dividend of 20 rupees, in first 3 quarters we have 18 rupees of dividend declared. You need to, if you want to average it that way, it'll probably be a better one. It'll come to 5 rupees per quarter for the previous financial year and 6 rupees per quarter for the current financial year. So actually there's an increase in dividends in the hands of the shareholders.
All right. Also, this quarter the capex is very large actually. So is this because of one-time ramp up, or is it recurring in nature?
See, one of the implications of work from home, and clearly all the growth is happening from work from home, is it also adds a little more to the capex. When people come to a delivery center to work, and depending on how the workload is, you can definitely use one machine or one desktop for more than one employee, right? I mean, you may have 14 employees using 10 machines. This is an example, right? But in the work from home scenario, each of the 14 employees would need to have a computer at home to work. So some of it is coming from work from home as well as other IT equipment required to get work from home going, which was especially in the initial part of the year.
Yeah. Okay, but I was referring to the last quarter's capex, which was like 591 million. So.
Yeah. But some of it is, if I'm going back, we've added a lot of employees in UK, etc. Everything is on work from home.
All right. Okay. All right. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is on the line of Shubhankar Rojha from SKS Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for this opportunity. I have 3 questions. One, so I do not want a specific guidance, but do we have scope to improve this margin? We are, pretty stable here, and typically H2 is better in terms of margin. What are the levers that we have to improve our current margin?
What we talked about it. Don't know if you understood. Q3 margins have a lot of costs pertaining to ramp up with no associated revenues.
You're talking about the UK operations?
In healthcare operations, open enrollment, there are a lot of ramp up costs with no associated revenues.
Okay. So that's largely the one key driver for our margin. So secondly, can you give a breakup of the other income? I couldn't get the numbers.
So if you look at the consolidated numbers, there was a loss of about 17.86 million on account of FX.
How much? Sorry, how much?
About 1.8 crores.
Okay.
And against that, we have interest of treasury income of a little over 8.6 crores for the quarter. And there are some other items.
Okay. And finally, this AGS digital number, what was the 9-month revenue and EBITDA from the business?
Yeah, I think that Partha had covered. It has done about 15 million in the 15-16 million Q3. Sorry, in YTD December. No, YTD December.
And what was the So I think 6 months was 9 million. And and what was the EBITDA number?
It's in the margins of about 14-15%.
So similar to what you were operating at, company like that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone wishing to ask a question, please press star and 1. Participants in the conference, if you wish to ask a question, you may please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Jignesh, an investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. I have a question that we have a good book value, we have a good margin and EPS. Why don't we split the profit? Because there is a lot of liquidity. There is only a 2 crore shares in the market.
Thank you for your suggestion. We will take it to the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone wishing to ask a question, please press star and 1. Next question is from the line of Manish Parekh, an investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon and congratulations on the set of numbers. So my question is regarding loans to the promoter entity. So what are the chances of that getting again rolled over or again given to promoter entities after 31st March? Is there any option? Is there an option that change could get rolled over?
Right now, they are all payable as of 31st of March.
Okay, so currently we don't have any intention to, give it again in the next financial year.
Yeah, no, I comment about next financial year. Right now, they are all payable by 31st of March.
And they're also payable back on demand. So you can always call the money, call them loans if you need there is a funding requirement.
What is the interest income on this? Ala, can you please share it with the investors?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's about 8 crores for the quarter.
And for the full year, for the 9 months, how much will be on these loans?
That will be roughly about 23 crores.
And these have all been paid and collected, right?
All interest has been collected.
Okay, so 23 crores you are saying and advances of around what, 500 crores?
460 crores. It was higher earlier, but right now 460. It was about 490 earlier.
Okay. Sorry, I mean now the interest rate you said. What is the interest rate?
It varies, but it's somewhere in that 7.5%.
Okay. And so lastly on the debt side, because I've been following up with all the quarterly con calls. So like we said that there is a expense component to repaying the debt early. So are we looking to repay debt in next financial year or coming quarters? Anything on the debt front you can give us a sense?
No, so if you look at it, there is, if I just look at between March 20 and December 20, there is a reduction of roughly about 110 crores. So that's the reduction which has happened between March and December in terms of the debt. So, what we have is a lot of it is in the form of term loans where we have a payment schedule and which we are paying down. And we have loans like the India balance sheet and external commercial borrowing, where there are restrictions in terms of repayment because the way RBI has stipulated this. So we have limited flexibility in paying down such loans. But whatever is the scheduled payments, we are paying it down. And as I mentioned, there is about 110 crore reduction in debt between March 20 and December 20.
Okay. Sir, can you give an idea of a blended cost in percentage terms, interest cost in percentage terms for the debt that we have on the books?
See, most of them are, a lot of the debt is LIBOR linked and with margins of roughly, say, 300%, broadly speaking. So that's our cost.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Reminder to the participants, anyone wishing to ask a question, may please press star and 1. The next question is on the line of Satyaki Shekhar, individual shareholder. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. And first of all, congratulations on this set of numbers. The profit is obviously, I understand the margins are lower side because of the ramp-up cost. But I have a specific question from the perspective of ECB loans. So I want to understand that as far as the ECB loans, because we have debt in form of ECB, right? Because we are doing advances to our sister companies. Why can't we look at an opportunity of doing ECB loans? I understand there's a timeline, this is RBI, but RBI would consider it positively because we are a net foreign exchange positive company.
Your question was not very clear. Your line was a little garbled. Could you repeat your question, sir?
Yeah, I will do that. I was looking from the perspective of the...
Sir, can you use the handset mode while speaking? They don't even hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Much better.
So I was asking from the perspective of ECB loans, because ECB loans, we are paying short-term loans. In fact, we're doing advances to our sister concerns. Why can't we look at using our ECB loans? Because I understand that RBI does take the if we had foreign exchange positive.
Okay, so that's a good question, good suggestion. So we'll definitely see if that's possible and how long does it take to prepay the loan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone wishing to ask a question, may please press star and 1. If there are no further questions, I now hand the conference over to Mr. R. Ravi for his closing comments.
Thank you, Lisa. This is Ravi here again. Thank you to all the participants for joining us in the results conference call. If there are any further questions or clarifications about the Q3 or 9-month financials, please email me or to Pala, and we're more than happy to get back to you. This is Ravi signing off on behalf of HGS Management. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this call.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Hinduja Global Solutions, we conclude today's conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line. Thank you.